And I look back on those thousands of hours of CE, and the most impactful ones were in small groups. I just love that dynamic because you really have more of a conversational exchange of ideas and information and education where you can kind of go a little deeper. That's what really gets me fired up. That's what I enjoy on both sides of that equation.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients Podcast. As you know, I'm your host, Dr. Len Tao. I first always thank the sponsors, both Dental Intelligence and the doc sites, for their continued support, allowing me to come to your inbox every single Friday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern Time with a new episode. We're in the middle of Season 8. I also want to remind people of my event in September called Supercharge Your Dental Practice. It's at Pier 66, September 26th and 27th in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. We're bringing it back to Fort Lauderdale after a year in Scottsdale. We have 13 amazing speakers. We have a panel discussion, lots of vendors to meet, a great event. I highly recommend you check it out. Remember, it's superchargeyourdentalpractice.com. You can go there. You can take $100 off the already low super early bird price by using the code RAVING, RAVING, which will be good up until the event. The pricing will change in April from super early bird to the early bird pricing. Today's episode of the Raving Patients Podcast is called Empowering Dentists, Luxury CE, and Strategic Partnerships. My guest is Dr. Jim Arnold. I'm going to read Jim's bio, and we'll have him talk about luxury retreats. So Jim has been a leader in the dental industry for over 2 decades, drawing on his experience as a clinician, multi-practice owner, and educator to empower dentists in achieving success. Through luxury dental retreats, he combines advanced education with luxury experiences, helping dentists elevate their practices and personal growth. With Foundation Dental Services, he partners with dentists to create seamless practice transitions, preserving autonomy, patient care, and legacy without private equity involvement. Committed to fostering growth and balance, Jim's mission is to help dentists thrive through innovative learning environments, transformative partnerships, and actionable strategies. As a dynamic speaker, he brings deep insights into dentistry, leadership, and business, inspiring progress and meaningful change in the profession. So please welcome to the Raving Patients Podcast, Jim Arnold. Jim, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hey, Len, thanks for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
I'm excited to have you, and I want to delve a little bit deeper into the luxury dental retreats. So as we know, we both know Curran, and Curran's been influential. I had planned to do a retreat, but my events kind of superseded that. And I know you work with him, and you came up with this concept, luxury dental retreats. So can you talk about a little bit about why you created it, and who they are for and what they are for?
Yeah, absolutely, Len. It's kind of a passion project for me, actually, and it combines kind of everything I've done in dentistry over the last 25 years. 25 years ago, I was doing probably 300 hours of CE a year, and I was dragging my team all over the country. We were spending a couple $100,000 a year. I mean, literally with travel and tuition and all that sort of thing. But we learned a lot. We got really good at what we do. And then I got into the education space where I was doing a lot of the educating and mentoring and that sort of thing. And I really enjoyed that too. And I look back on those thousands of hours of CE, and the most impactful ones were in small groups. I just love that dynamic because you really have more of a conversational exchange of ideas and information and education where you can kind of go a little deeper. When you're in a room with 100 or 1,000 people, there's a lot of value. You can learn a lot. But you don't necessarily have access to the educators. You don't have access to that speaker to stop them in the mid-sentence and say, but here's my situation, and kind of apply it to them. So when I was in a situation, either as a student or an educator, where we got to roll up our sleeves and have real-time back and forth conversations so that our attendees could get really good value, that's what really gets me fired up. That's what I enjoy on both sides of that equation. So when I looked at education and when I looked at what's always been valuable for me, I wanted to bring that to dentists, and I wanted to do it in a luxury setting. Because let's be honest, I've been doing luxury travel with my family for 25 years. Dentists are busy. Dentists have so much going on with their practices. Sometimes it's like hard for them to get away, to like take time for vacation. We're workaholics, we're perfectionists. We want to drive all the time, but we got to have that downtime. On the other hand, we also need like high quality education. Like, there's so much to learn. There's so much going on right now, so much change, that in order to stay on top of things and to have time for vacation, there are dentists out there who I think get a lot of value out of combining an education with vacation. And so that's really why I put this together.
So can you give or talk about some of the ones you've already set up or scheduled? Can you talk about who's going to be the educators, where they're located, what makes them luxurious? Why, using the term luxury, what makes them luxurious? Because obviously people go on retreats all the time. Some of them are not the most luxurious. So what makes yours stand out from a luxury perspective?
Well, I think they stand out both from a luxury and education perspective, but we'll jump into the luxury side first. We're talking about like rock star villas. Most of them are oceanfront with, anywhere from 10 to 13 bedrooms and a private chef, massage therapist, concierge, all the things that you really appreciate in luxury travel, the things that make you feel like a VIP. I mean, I don't know about everybody else, but I've always appreciated those experiences. And so to have a venue where everything is top notch, like up to my standard, which is pretty high, and have this incredible service where, they put you first, that is really attractive to me. And I'd like people to learn an environment where they're relaxed, where they feel like they're being catered to and they're kind of open. They're not sitting in a conference center. They're not sitting in a hotel, whatever event room. They're not sitting on, uncomfortable chairs and, being distracted by all the people in front of them. They're right there with the speakers. And so going to the educational side, I've got people like Dr. Arun Garg, who's one of the preeminent implant educators in the world. He's educated more than 10,000 general dentists to place implants, and he's written 20 textbooks. And so he's a real authority and a really approachable, cool guy. To get to meet him and know him in that kind of an intimate setting, it's gold. I've got a couple of cosmetic speakers. Dr. Deborah King, she's in Atlanta and she's a rock star and has been for a long time. She's incredible, and what she has to offer to attendees is just through the roof. And not just on the cosmetic side, but really on the leadership and team building side. I've got Trent Smallwood. He's also doing major aesthetic stuff and clear aligner therapy and profitability. Gary Takis is going to get into, leadership, patient, kind of customer service, going free for service if you want to, eliminating, managed care plans that don't pay well. Fred Joyle is going to delve into the subject matter from his Super Bold book and translate that into what it means for a dentist and a dental practice. I think he's calling it the charisma effect, and having that charisma and that boldness to not only lead, but to communicate effectively and to inspire. Then we've got a retreat and those first retreats are in Mexico and Costa Rica, and then we have a retreat in August in Dubai. And that retreat will have Dr. Steve Rasner, Dr. Jeff Buski, and Elijah Desmond. So we're talking about high-end practice, high-end life, and high-end transitions. Basically, start of your career, like how can you really build that up? Or if you're in mid-career and you want to take it to another level. Steve has built a $5 million practice in one of the most economically depressed regions of the entire country. And it's all fee-for-service, by the way. Jeff Buski, who's also speaking on personal growth and how to, optimize your life in body, being, balance, and business. He will be there talking about the lifestyle. And then Elijah, who owns one of the best dental brokerage companies in the world and has inspired like countless dentists through his, Smiles at Sea and dental festival programs. He is an expert at helping dentists increase the EBITDA of their practice so that they can sell for the highest number possible. So that's a pretty dynamic faculty. And we top it off with Valerie Dangler, who's one of the best hygienists in the world and an incredible educator and just an incredible human being. And she's going to add value to multiple retreats throughout this process.
Wow, being an educator myself, you got a lot of top talent there. So kudos to you for bringing them together in a small area. So that's the education part. Now let's talk about Dubai as an example. Dubai is a high end location. So where is it in Dubai? What is the expectations for someone attending that particular event?
Sure. Well, I've already touched on the education. We'll be there for 5 days, and we'll probably do about 6 hours of education a day. And so each of the 3 speakers will probably do about 9 or 10 hours total, but we will combine that with some amazing excursions. And I'm not going to get into exactly what those excursions are, but suffice it to say, they will be once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, some really, really cool stuff. And we're staying in an unbelievable luxury resort where, customer service is at the very highest end. So that one, I'm excited about all of them, but that has been on my bucket list for a long time. And so to go to Dubai with a really cool group of like-minded professionals, that's really exciting to me.
How many people are you looking for to go? And how does someone recognize, if they're listening to this, viewing this, how do they recognize that they're a good candidate to come to a retreat? I know it's for anybody that wants to grow themselves, but I'm curious if there's certain characteristics that someone should have.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of the retreats are going to be 8 to 10 people. We want to keep it very small, very exclusive, intimate, so that everybody gets, that really one-on-one, and so that the group itself gets really tight. Because you're going to learn a lot from our speakers. You're going to learn a lot from me because I'm pretty well versed in all of these areas. But you're also going to learn a lot from one another. When you've got a group of like-minded, growth-oriented dentists in one space like that, a lot of breakthroughs happen and a lot of deep relationships get built. So who is this a good fit for? It's a good fit for any dentist who needs a boost, needs a pick-me-up, needs to just get inspired, get motivated, and go home with a real action plan to implement the strategies that we're going to talk about. And a dentist who wants to be a part of a community, because there will be a community post-retreat that will be incredibly supportive. And look, let's be honest, hold one another accountable. Because without accountability, too many of us, we get back to the office after an amazing education experience and we don't implement because we're busy. We're thrust back into the craziness. But if we have regular touch points, if we have people, asking the hard questions and making sure that everyone's following through, those are the kinds of people we want. You got to be a little open. You got to be collaborative, and you got to want to be a part of a group of clinicians like that. And entrepreneurs like that.
Got it. No, that sounds amazing. So let's shift gears a little bit. You mentioned I mentioned in the bio that you have something called foundational dental services. So can you talk about that and tell the listeners and viewers exactly what that is?
Sure. I am part of an alliance of dentist-owned groups. And my group within that larger ecosystem is called Foundation Dental Services. So I am partnering with doctors who are ready to either start to transition on to whatever's next, or they're younger docs who just, I don't like managing this. I don't like hiring and firing. I don't like doing payroll. They want to get top dollar for their practice and kind of offload a lot of the responsibilities that they don't really enjoy so they can really focus on what they want to do. And I think some of the differentiators in what we're doing is it's 100% dentist owned and operated. There's no private equity involvement. So, especially since the pandemic, there have been too many situations where some of these PE-backed DSOs have gone under. Not all of them. I mean, obviously, there's some good ones out there. There's some great PE firms out there. The guys who partnered with me 10 years ago, phenomenal. I love them. We're still friends. That having been said, in the industry, I have just seen so many instances over the last 4 years where, they've gotten over leveraged, too much debt. And then, when revenue slumps or EBITDA goes down, all of a sudden banks start calling those notes and coming in and taking everything. And so I've seen over 100 dentists lose $1 million or more and end up in lawsuits against their company. And those are just things I don't want any part of. I want the dentists to be in charge, the dentists who have put their blood, sweat, and tears and time and money into building a great business. Those are the people who, in my opinion, should reap the largest benefits from that. And, today's model, especially with the shakeup over the last 4 years, I think it's going to change. I think that the days of private equity getting 80% of the profit from these types of transactions, I think that it's going to decrease a lot. And I think there will be a lot more dentist-to-dentist transactions and dentist-run groups like this. So I'm excited about just giving dentists the opportunity to kind of be in charge of their own destiny, where they don't necessarily have to do 3 to 5 years. We may do 1 year or 2 years. Whatever we can do to transition them in the way that they want to transition into retirement or a new career or whatever. We want to keep the teams. We want to invest in the practices. We're not going to be pinching pennies at the bottom to try to increase EBITDA. No, we're going to blow up the top line without counting paper clips to save money, because there's only so much you can save, from here down to here. How much of that can you save? How much of that is a compromise? How much of that is going to create a disenfranchised team, doctors who are annoyed? And these days when recruitment and retention is almost impossible, you better have a positive culture and you better retain every rock star employee that you have. And, anybody who comes in and thinks they're going to change everything because they're smarter than the dentist who built that, I think that it's going to come back and bite them in the ass at some point.
Interesting. So how does how are things different with what you're offering versus someone going to, let's say, Elijah, who now has dental pitch brokerage, or going to someone else to try and transition the practice? What are you doing differently than these other companies are doing?
Well, there are a lot of good options. And so I would never suggest that I am the only option or our group is the only option, because there's a different fit for everybody. And when, I probably worked on about 60 deals with dentists over the years. Some of them were my deals corporately and privately, because I had a multi-practice group. And some of them have been as an advocate for a friend, or working with a DSO to make a deal, or working with a seller to make a deal. And there have been times where I've just been the mediator. So I've kind of seen everything that can happen in these types of transactions, really big ones and then smaller ones. I've seen huge successes. I've seen huge failures. So in terms of what we bring to the table that's a little different, we are all dentists. We have been there. We have done that. We have bought, we have sold. We have been involved in these transactions and understand what the dentist is going through and what an emotional process this is. It was emotional for me. It was a big deal. And it took me 6 months to actually pull the trigger. 6 months and about 1,000 questions, of course. But when I finally did, the things that needed to be satisfied for me were, one, is this the right partner? Is this somebody that I really want to work with for the next 5 years? Because I had a 5-year contract, which I did the entire 5 years. And obviously, is this a great offer? Am I maximizing the potential of what I can get for my life's work? And I think, unfortunately, sometimes people lean a little too heavily on the financial side. It's important, but that partnership and who you're doing business with, I think, is every bit as important. And I think that sometimes that gets undervalued a little bit, because we all want to make the most money possible. But post-transaction, you want to make sure that you're in a good, supportive environment where you're on the same page and you have a shared vision for the direction things go. So this isn't a cookie-cutter kind of deal. This is a deal where if we've got something that's already working, there are certainly things that we want to centralize to make it more cost efficient, all that sort of thing. But I'm sorry, the things that make that practice successful, the personality and the culture, those need to remain the same. And that's really what we're all about. Now, you can work with a lot of different brokers that can help you maximize, what you can get out of it. And, people like Elijah or Tony Stefanu with Connect the Dents, and there are others. I'm not going to read the whole list. There's some great people out there who can really be of benefit and help. I just feel like for me, this would be a much better fit as a dentist without commissions and all of that sort of thing. I'd rather just work with them directly and make it happen in such a way that not only will they transaction with a dentist and be operated by dentists who get it, but they'll also have opportunities for additional entrepreneurship, passive income, and that sort of thing that I don't think are available in most of these opportunities.
Got it. No, that makes a lot of sense. So, a lot of dentists struggle with work-life balance. Okay. How much enjoyment you're going to get versus running your, business 60 hours a week, even though you're only there 30 hours a week. Yeah. So can you talk about the best way that you experience work-life balance and how you can help dentists with that as well?
Yeah, that's $1 million question, and it's not an easy one because we're all pulled in so many different directions, and dentists, as a general rule, tend to be overwhelmed because we don't really learn about leadership or communication or running a business when we're in dental school. So all of those things, that confluence of factors, lend themselves to a lot of stress and a lot of overwhelm and people getting out of balance. And I've been there. Trust me, I had times in my career where I was so out of balance because I was building something and all this sort of thing. But I think number one, you got to have your priorities straight. And if your number one priority is your family and taking care of them, I think a lot of us get lost in the illusion that working 80 hours a week is going to take care of them. Well, maybe you're going to end up making more money through your business, but guess what? You're neglecting the people who you're saying that you're taking care of. And so having your priorities straight. And, one thing that I try to do, and I'm not always perfect at it, but it's something I always strive to do better, is set aside time blocks. It's okay, from here to here, I am not answering my phone. I'm not responding to an email. This is focus on my family. And you've got to have guardrails up, because if you don't, you can work 24/7. And I've done that before. And then beyond that, you got to have a great team. And having a great team means having people that you don't just delegate to, but you delegate and trust. Because if you delegate, but then you're still kind of micromanaging them, they get that. They don't like that vibe. And guess what? If there isn't trust from you to them, they're not going to trust you in return. There's got to be an exchange, mutual respect. And that all circles all the way back to leadership, which is what runs everything. And if you're not a strong leader, you're not likely to build a strong team, and you'll never be able to delegate and trust. And so those are kind of, I think, most of the keys to what I've tried to do over the years.
Got it. Okay. In terms of trends in the future of dentistry, the dentistry is changing. I've been out just a couple of years from clinical dentistry, and in those 2 years, things have changed significantly. Okay. Talk to me about where you see things or what trends you see that will shape the future of this industry.
Obviously there's a lot going on with technology. I mean, technology is exploding, and I think the rate of growth and innovation is probably faster than ever, especially with all the AI applications. The things that AI is doing for us, it's mind-boggling, really, in terms of obviously diagnostics, in terms of communication, in terms of optimizing schedules, in terms of interacting with patients. I mean, there's just so many things that are great, but it's a lot. And I think that every dentist who's already overwhelmed with what they have going on and have on their plate, it's important to find mentorship, and it's important to find people who can kind of guide them along that process and make sure that, they don't have 6 different platforms that are replicating the similar functions. So AI, and that's going to be huge. Obviously, digital workflows are continuing to get more and more efficient, and that efficiency is not only great for patients, it's great for a practice. I think that in some cases, cases, like especially like in the all on X world, things are getting so much more efficient, and so much better with this digital workflow and some of the new techniques and whatnot, that I think costs are coming down a little bit, which, I think in a lot of cases we're able to pass some of that along to the patient and still increase profitability at the same time. Other things, I think that, as I mentioned before, I do think that the practice transaction and kind of group model is going to continue to evolve. Now, where it's going to end up, nobody knows. There will always be a place for DSOs. There will always be a place for private equity. But I do think that the space for dentist-owned groups and dentist-to-dentist transactions is going to expand from here due to some of the bad experiences that dentists have had over the last several years.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I think the future of dentistry is bright. AI, I think, is a massive game changer. The stuff I've seen in just the last few months, it blows my mind. The AI receptionist that can, I was just on an onboarding today for one of my clients, listening to how they were setting them up and showing them how, these AI receptionists can basically handle the workflow of a team member. I don't think it's going to replace the team member necessarily. No. It's going to help them work better and more efficiently in the practice. So that's certainly one of the things I'm excited about. What do you see, and I'm sure the answer, I think I know the answer to this, but I'll ask anyway. Yeah. What do you see as the future when it comes to practices selling to DSOs? In the very beginning, you mentioned about, you'll see more and more private selling versus, DSO stuff. So where do you see DSOs in 2 or 3 years versus where they are now? People looking, I think dentists are looking to sell when they're younger rather than when they're closer to retirement. So where do you see the future there?
Well, obviously there's some really well-run DSOs out there. And so I don't want to paint the entire industry with the same brush. There are a lot of good ones and there are a lot of bad ones, to be frank. And I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. I've seen great successes and great failures. In terms of the future, there's always going to be a place, I believe, and correct me if I'm mistaken, because you probably know the stats better than I do, but I believe that DSOs have taken over about 30% of the industry, in terms of practices. I do think that trend will continue. And I always used to say it would get to about 70-75%. That last 25 to 30 would either be dentists who I would never sell to a DSO, or the practices just aren't attractive enough for a DSO to want to purchase. So I think there's still a lot of runway, no question about it. The question is how much of that next 40% will be divided between kind of private equity-backed DSOs or dentist-owned DSOs or dental groups. So it'll be interesting. My strong opinion is that it will start to skew a little bit more in the dentist-owned favor because I think more dentists are looking for that, frankly. But the ones that are doing it well, I think they'll continue to do it well. Because let's be honest, Len, one of the other things beyond overwhelm that a lot of dentists suffer from that people don't think about that much, it's loneliness. I think that a lot of dentists feel like they're out on an island and they're kind of doing it all themselves day to day. Even in a group practice, I think sometimes dentists feel that way because they're at the office and they go home, they're into their own thing with their families and whatnot. But I think that a lot of dentists are looking for community. And you can get community through masterminds, you can get community through coaching, you can get community through joining a group. Again, whether it's a group of dentists or it's a group that's, owned and operated by a private equity firm. I think that community is probably more important than ever right now.
Got it. So we've covered a lot of different things, from the retreats to the foundation dental services to work-life balance and trends. Is there anything that, as we transition to my next part of the podcast, is there anything else that you wanted to cover that we haven't covered yet?
Well, we haven't talked much about leadership, so I'll just briefly jump into sort of my philosophy on leadership. I think that to be an effective leader, obviously you need to be a damn good communicator, because if you're not able to communicate with your team, you're not able to communicate with your patients, if you're not able to facilitate communication between your front and back, which happens all the damn time, then you're probably not a great leader. So you got to be able to do that on the communication piece. You've got to have a clear vision for where you want things to go. Without a clear vision, if the dentist doesn't know like where they're going, they're certainly not going to be able to get a team to follow them. And so you got to be really clear about what you want to do. You also have to have some flexibility, let's be honest, because visions can change over time. Circumstances can change, or you may have thought this is the way to go, and then it's not working the way you want. So you got to be able to change course. But, and then just being able to build a great team. I mean, that is a sign of a great leader. Try to find the right people, which is hard, but you got to be patient. Don't hire out of desperation. Hire slow, fire fast. If you want the right person, you got to find that personality with a work ethic and that heart for service. You can't just hire resumes. But then that's not enough. You also have to put them in the right position to be successful and feel fulfilled in what they're doing. And then in addition to that, you better give them all the tools that they need. If they need a second monitor, get them a second monitor. If they need voice activated perio measurements, get that. Like whatever they need to be successful, just get it for them. It's a small investment, but it will have huge returns for your business. So I think leaders got to do those things, and there's obviously a long list, but that's the Cliff Notes version, in my opinion.
Perfect. No, that's great. That was a great way to end the content portion. So we're going to transition now. I'm going to read you some quick questions in my program called Pod Decks.
Okay.
Business-related questions. The point of this is to get through 8 to 10 of them, but these are very fast answers. Okay? So let's see what's going on here. Let's see what we got here.
Can I pass?
Not allowed. Not allowed.
Oh, man.
When you were a kid, what was the first thing you wanted to be when you grew up?
A doctor.
A doctor, okay. What is the number one tactic you use to stay organized?
Digital filing system.
Okay. If you achieved all of your life goals tomorrow, what would you do next?
I would travel the world, baby.
Okay. What mindset has helped make you successful?
Constant growth, personally and professionally.
Okay. What book have you read multiple times?
Atomic Habits by James Clear.
It's in the back right over there. You can't see it, but it's right over there.
It's right up here for me.
Yeah. What important rule have you learned about yourself or learned about your business that you think will make you more successful?
Oh, boy. Take care of your people. It's not all about you. Take care of the people who take care of you.
Got it. Who have you looked to for advice or mentorship?
Oh, man. I had a list of 17 mentors once upon a time. Right now, Dr. Jeff Buski is my primary mentor.
Got it. Okay. Let's see what else we got here. What is the smartest investment you've ever made?
Any investment in myself and my education, because that pays massive dividends down the road as long as you choose carefully.
If you were to start over again, what would you do differently?
Wow. There are a lot of things I would do differently. The biggest maybe is to find mentors earlier in my career, not try to go it alone. Imitate genius. Don't try to reinvent the wheel unless you are that person.
I like that. Who would you love to collaborate with, and what would you love to collaborate on?
Oh, man, that's tough. There are like 100 people I'd love to collaborate with. I'm collaborating with the 9 faculty members on the luxury dental retreats staff. So that's who I want to collaborate with right now.
Okay. Describe Mondays for you in one word.
Exciting. New opportunity.
Okay. How do you define success?
Freedom. Freedom to do what you want when you want.
Okay. Let's see what else we got here. If you had one piece of advice to someone who is just starting out, what would it be?
Figure out what you want to learn and then figure out who to learn it from. Try to find the people doing what you want to do and learn from their successes and their failures.
All right, 2 questions left. What has been the most satisfying moment in business for you?
Most satisfying moment in business. Wow. Oh, man. Len, these are not easy questions because there are a lot of them. But, Well, I'll just say financially, when we got our first recap after having sold our practices, sold 10 years ago, got our recap 7 years ago, and that was a very happy day because it was a number that I never had dreamed of as a dentist.
That's great. That's great. Last question, either business or personal. I ask this to everyone. What is one subscription you cannot live without? Again, business or personal.
One subscription I can't live without. Are we talking about like magazine subscription?
No, anything you pay for on a monthly basis.
Oh, man.
Software could be, there's so many different subscriptions we have.
I feel like I need to get my phone out and look at what the hell I use because I have all kinds of subscriptions. Geez. This isn't number one, but it comes to mind immediately. Evernote. I love that app and being able to organize my notes.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great subscription. So, Jim, that was great. Thank you for participating. I like to do that. Just it clears us away from all the content that we're talking about here. Something a little bit different. So, how can people reach out to you if they want to learn more about the luxury retreats that you're involved with, the Foundation Dental Services? What's the base someone can reach out to you to learn more about those things? So,
first of all, thanks, Len. I really appreciate being on. You're awesome as a human and as a professional, and it's been fun. I will, any of your listeners, give a 15% discount off of their tuition for a luxury retreat. But you can text me at 219-241-4698. Better to text and we can set up a call. Or you can email at Arnold, Dr. Arnold, at smilesbyarnold.com.
And they can find out if they wanted to learn more about the luxury dental retreats, they can go to luxurydentalretreats.com.
Correct. You got it.
Perfect. Well, guys, if you are listening to this and you think you may be a candidate for luxury dental retreats, go check out the website, reach out to Jim personally. He gave you the cell phone and email address so you can find out more about it. He's offering 15% off to the listeners of this podcast for the various ones he has in Mexico planned, a couple in Mexico and one in Dubai right now planned, correct?
And a couple in Costa Rica.
And a couple in Costa Rica, okay. So those locations, check them out. Reach out if you're interested, and remember, let him know you heard about him on the Raving Patients Podcast for that 15% discount. Jim, this was great. Thank you so much for joining me today. Guys, if you liked the episode, please let your colleagues know. Please share it, review us, like us, subscribe, do whatever you can to help promote the podcast. I want to thank the sponsors, both Dental Intelligence and the Doc Sites, and to remind everybody about my event, Supercharge Your Dental Practice, September 26th and 27th at Pier 66 in Fort Lauderdale. Check out superchargeyourdentalpractice.com for more information on the speakers that will be there. And Jim, I appreciate you joining me today, and I want to remind everybody that I end every single one of my podcasts with the 2 words that I live my life by. Remember, your reputation matters. Till the next episode, Jim, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Thanks, Len. Appreciate it.